You're listening to the Practical Wealth Show with Curtis May.
Hey everybody, so this is Curtis here. So what we're going to do is, this is going to come on as a podcast, but what I encourage you to do, I'm going to put this up on YouTube. And so this is I'm going to do a series of what I call Ask Curtis, Ask Me. And so what I want to talk about today is the Flawed Formula is going to be the title of this talk. All right. And so this is a little talk I give from time to time, and through something I'm an instructor with called the Wealth and Wisdom Institute. And so this year, I'm going to go into more of why traditional, as we go into 2020, why traditional planning, it really can't work. And you have to really look at the numbers because the whole thing is flawed from the beginning. So this is a short talk. I just want to get you to start thinking. So I'm going to be walking through a presentation. And so if you're listening to this, you might want to go check out the YouTube channel and check out the YouTube channel in general, because I'm going to start putting more just straight screen shares and lessons and case studies up on the YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe to that. But the Flawed Formula, so ask me, how is the traditional financial formula flawed from the very beginning is the question, right? Because what happens is this. Think about this. So I'm going to be a little controversial. So your financial life is being confiscated without any evidence of a crime. Well, what do you mean, Curtis? So what happens is the formula in typical, as we say in prosperity economics, because we're traditional. So I want to say typical financial advice. One is based on accumulation. So that's flawed, from the get-go. But here's the entire formula. The formula is time times so if you get a paper, you want to write this down. If you're listening or as you look at this, I want you to think through this formula. So time times the rate of return times the monetary unit equals accumulation. Okay. And so let's break these down. So what happens is most times people say, well, all right, which, this is old commercials that were out a few years ago saying, what's your number, right? And people will do a needs analysis, which all that information is made up, okay, based on assumptions designed to sell you products, all right? So I want you to think. Remember, I always say this is your money. And so you have to think through this. So let's start with time. And so with time is the only true measurement in the formula. That is the only element that is consistent. But here's the flaw. You can't get back time once it's lost. And so compounding is an element of time. So people talk about the magic of compound interest, but as we say, compound interest works best over time, uninterrupted. Okay. And so if you look on, drain the tank, if you keep taking money out of commission, although you need to live on money, but if you keep breaking up compounding, you can, that's a problem. See, so you can contribute to make up for losses, but that takes time. So if you have a market pullback, so if you have $100,000 or $10,000, doesn't matter. And let's say, just to give a gross example, you have a 50% drop in your money. So you've got $50,000 or $5,000. Do you know how much money you have to make, what kind of rate of return that fund manager has to get? Let's say you're a mutual fund guy or gal. You got to earn 100% just to get even, just to get back where you were. So you have to understand what's going on. You have to have one of the things I was rereading to a class, the Think and Grow Rich. And one of the things that Napoleon Hill talks about, you have to have accurate thinking. Right? So I'm going to try to give you organized in the planning. You need to have accurate thinking and specialized knowledge. People always forget that because those things take work. And you just rather, hey, I'm chasing down stocks. But see, you can try to, and so the market says, well, it's not a real loss until you sell, unless you sell it. But even making up time takes time. And so how do you recapture time is the question I want you to think about. Here's the second part of that formula, rates of return. How can you control that? Okay. And so the rates of return flaw is this: rates of return are inconsistent from year to year. Markets fluctuate. Rates of return can be manipulated, and they usually are, by the government and the Federal Reserve. And there is no correlation between the volume in the market and the dollars in circulation. So, in other words, what happens is a lot of the ups in the stock market is driven by basically money creation by the Fed. So it's monetary policy that is, because everybody wants the stock market to go up, because then you feel wealthy because you see your 401k up, and all that is inflation. Because when you hear quantitative easing, that's inflation. That means they're pumping money in to the economy. So the economy is going up because it's being juiced by Fed cheap money, and the stock market is addicted to money. So, okay. So if you look at the video, what you'll see is the what's moving to market is, in the video, so you see the charts, M1, M2. These are just the measurements of the money created, the money in the marketplace. And so what happens is the market should be higher based upon the money that they're printing. All right. And so you just got to know what's going on, what's driving, because, there's the old saying, if you know what's going on, you'll know what to do. And so when you look at rates of return, can you insure against losses from negative returns? Actually, you can, okay, at your base, because what you got to do is build a volatility buffer, which is one of the things that we share with people how to do when we go through our 5 principles. Now, let's break down the monetary unit, okay? That means dollars. So most people listening to the show are in North America and the United States, and so the monetary units we're going to call dollars, okay? And so here's the interesting thing, is that the monetary unit, what is the flaw of the monetary unit? Instability. So the longer I hold it, the less value that it has, because our dollar is a fiat currency, which is just a note. So, money is supposed to be a store of value. And so what happens is it is created by entities, the United States, the Treasury Department, the Fed, that are buried in unsustainable debt. Okay. And so much of traditional planning is based in a model. So when you see these fantasies in a plan, it is based on a model that, okay, here's your number. And if you do X amount in XYZ fund or 401k, you see, all right, well, if you do this, you'll have, $1 million, and at 4% withdrawal rate, you can live on this, right? Which is what typical planning is all about. But the planning is based on a model where the value of the unit, the dollar, remains stable. All right. But you've got a declining monetary unit. Okay. So, okay, you see $500,000, or $1 million or $2 million. Well, what does that buy? Because, your money will never be worth more than it is today. And so let's look at the flaw. So the monetary unit's flaw is because of inflation, depreciation, and maintaining your lifestyle becomes a moving target because the monetary unit fluctuates. So the everyday loss of value markets is hard to replace the goods and services with depreciated monetary units, right? So meaning that, one time where we switched over to gas heat, but I remember when our wife and I first got married, gas was like, no. So think about it. This is inflation, right? So in 1999, the first winter, 98, we were married, we had oil heat. So oil was 98 cents a gallon. So with we could get 100 gallons for $100, right? So $400 would fill up our oil tank. The mid 2000s, when oil spiked $3-4 a gallon, now it took $400 basically that money would give us like a quarter of a tank. And so we'd have to buy, also we're spending $1,500 a month in oil for what was $150. Now, it was tough for us and we were making money. So now what if you're on a fixed income and that happens to you? That's a problem because you can't manufacture new money. And so the cost of living is going up around you. That is the problem with that's the flaw. See, so you see you have all this money, but it don't buy nothing. So that how can you insure against the instability of the dollar is the question. So I'm not giving you a lot of answers today. These are just good questions I want you to think about. So let's talk about accumulation. So here's the flaw with accumulation. Accumulation assumes value or buying power. Accumulation does not anticipate taxes, inflation, depreciation, or government regulations. So the formula is flawed from the very beginning. So if the formula is flawed from the very beginning, how accurate will the results be 20 to 30 years from now with all these moving parts? All right. And so you've got to, in thinking a level deeper, how can you put together a plan that will work no matter what? Because right now, sometimes these plans can give you a false sense of security. So, was the question I always ask people, if what you thought to be true turned out not to be true, when would you want to find out? So in our next episode and on the next video, I will talk about, what does the ideal plan look like and how can you create a game plan that'll protect you in good times and bad, in up markets and down. That's got to be your foundation. The plan has to work no matter what. Right now, the typical program that is being shared with people by the powers that be only works when the sun is shining, okay? Only works when the market goes up. And so, markets go up, markets go down, markets go sideways, and you got to have a plan that works in all four. And that is our show for today. Next week we'll answer where, so the question you should be asking is, Curtis, what should I be doing? So I'm going to, that's a cliffhanger. So I'm going to leave you to next week. Right now, one of the goals when I speak, and so I'm not going to leave out because I realize I've been doing, if you're on my email list, you're getting that I've been having workshops. So we're going to start webinars. So the week after I do a workshop, I'm going to do a webinar. So we're going to add that into the schedule because I've got to stop thinking locally because this is what I do. I'm not just on the show pontificating. I actually work with clients every day. So this is some of this stuff is coming from personal experience and clients. So we're going to do more case studies via video and social media. And so connect with me on our business page on Facebook. LinkedIn is a good place to connect with me, and subscribe to the show if you haven't already, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. So, hey guys, everybody. You'll talk to me before the holiday, so I'm not going to say that right now. But have a great day. Go out there and make it a prosperous day. So right now, I know I've given you more questions than I have answers on this show, but that's a good thing. Because what I want you to do is I want you to start to think. I'm not trying to tell you what to think. And so it starts with awareness and asking the right questions. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to Practical Wealth. To access the show notes and resources, go to practicalwealthshow.com. To get your questions on the show, go to practicalwealthshow.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before you make any investment decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Practical Wealth. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.